look, the government tried to do something positive, though it seems extraordinary it's not been done before. The government set to ban machetes and zombie-style knives following a campaign led by Idris Elba to take them off our streets.
Yes, the Home Secretary, James Cleverly, plans to make it illegal to possess, sell, import or manufacture such weapons. And those that do could face up to 2 years in prison.
We have already taken action to make the carrying of zombie knives illegal. When I became Home Secretary, I made the immediate decision to go further, to put forward this secondary legislation to support what we've already done, to make the possession of zombie knives illegal and to close the loophole. We have made it clear to the police that we expect them, in fact we demand that they pursue every reasonable line of inquiry. When someone has been the victim of crime, they deserve to have a police response. We've made that very clear to the police leadership. That will be something that happens now as a standard, and we'll be holding the leadership of the police to account.
Well, all that comes as the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer unveiled his plans to tackle knife crime, promising to support the most vulnerable youngsters in society.
Well, this comes to light as Valdo Calicani's trial continues in Nottingham. He's going to be sentenced today after he stabbed 3 people to death there.
Well, let's talk to former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, who joins us now. Peter, good to see you this morning. I can't be the only person in the country who's thinking, how is it that zombie knives and machetes are still legal to have in the UK?
Well, as individual items, if somebody was to take that out onto the street, they're not legal. They're not legal at all. But there is a bit of a loophole that might enable somebody to keep one underneath their bed, for example. But here we have yet another initiative relating to knives and to weapons. And the big question for me is it going to work? I fear it won't, because we used to have one piece of legislation that called everything offensive weapons. Then we had more legislation that introduced a bladed article. Then we had stipulations as to the length of a blade. Then we had legislation about wording. There couldn't be any wording on the blades of these weapons. And now we're going to get something about the depth of serration and the length of the blade yet again. But what is happening all the time? Teenage blood is being spilt on our streets. And only yesterday in the West Midlands, a teenager was charged with, you've got it, murdering another teenager.
As you say, Peter, the blood continues to get spilt, doesn't it? Do you think going after the knives here is the answer, going after the blades themselves and banning machetes and zombie knives as we see? Or is this more about robust policing and more bobbies on the beat? Is this more of a societal issue than it is about the actual knife in question?
Thank you very much indeed, because yes, it is a societal issue. I'm not going to criticise the further legislation. If the government want to push that through, then absolutely fine. But it's not really tackling the nub of the matter. There is an absolute epidemic of knife crime in our country. People are losing their lives on virtually a daily basis. And that's not to mention all the people that get stabbed and only survive due to the brilliance of the surgeons and the nurses and the doctors. It's absolutely out of hand. What we need more police, we need more stop and search. And yes, we've got stupid mayors, particularly in London, who want to actually reduce stop and search and limit police powers. There are other issues, of course, absent parenting, poverty and the such like, but they're not police matters. I'm a former detective. What we need is clear, robust policing, plenty of stop and search, targeting known offenders and the such like.
But actually, bearing that in mind, Peter, that's quite a difficult and dangerous job for the police, isn't it? If you tackle knife crime, at some point someone's going to be attacked, aren't they?
Policing comes with an element of danger. Everybody knows that when they sign on the dotted line. I still bear the scar of being stabbed in the neck many years ago. The police are better prepared these days. They do have better protective equipment, and if their operations are well planned, then they can, of course, endeavour to minimise risk. But policing comes with risk. Policing is about self-sacrifice. That's why the public used to trust the police, used to respect the police, because they knew that the police would do stuff that they didn't want to do or wouldn't want to do. The police have an awfully big job to regain the trust and the respect of the public. If they get out on the streets, if they make the streets a hostile environment for criminals, if they stop people, if they search people, if they retrieve knives, and then they are supported by the CPS and the courts by charging people and handing down stern, stiff and appropriate sentences, then we might get some way towards making the streets safer.
OK, Peter Bleksley, former Scotland Yard detective, very good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.